Hello, I'm Kevin J.N. Hughes replying to I'm That Guy Pal. I'm That Guy Pal says that tradition is not infallible and then goes on to say whose tradition should we follow and lists a whole bunch of heretics and then says the Orthodox tradition, but he doesn't capitalize the O, so I'm guessing he means my church, but oftentimes people say Orthodox with a lowercase o when they just mean right believing. So, for example, you might say somebody is an Orthodox Protestant because he follows like the Protestant confessions to the letter or something. So I don't know if that's what he's referring to or if he actually means Eastern Orthodox, what I am. But nevertheless, this question is not the gotcha that he thinks it is. In fact, it's fairly easy to answer. The answer is we should do exactly what St. Paul says. St. Paul says, hold fast to the tradition which you received from us, whether by word of mouth or by our epistle. So, how would we know who received the tradition from the apostles? Well, let's start at Matthew chapter 16, where Jesus says, on this rock I build my church, and the gates of hell will not prevail against it. Now, what is that church? Well, the New Testament shows us what the church Jesus Christ established looked like. And what we see in the New Testament is that the church is not some invisible reality made up of everyone who believes certain doctrines. Instead, what we see is that the church is a real institution of which the apostles were the leaders and appointed people to specific roles. We also see in the book of Acts and in the epistles that people could be baptized into the church and become members, and that people could be excommunicated out of the church. And we see that people were always considered to either be inside of the church or outside of the church. It was a real institution that you were either inside or outside of, not based exclusively on what you believed, but based on the actual reality of whether you had been received into it or not. Now, the second thing is exactly what I alluded to before. The church is called to hold fast to all of the tradition received from the apostles, whether by word of mouth or by letter. We'll get back to that in a second. But first, we can see right off the bat that if you want to be part of the church that would have access to those traditions, you have to be you have to be part of that institution that Jesus established, because that's the institution Jesus said the gates of hell would never prevail against. Well, the Marcionites aren't that institution. The Nazarenes aren't that institution. The Ebionites aren't that institution. Only the Orthodox Church is that institution. And we can see that because if you look up who the founder of the Nazarenes is, it will show you who the founder of the Nazarenes is. It'll show you that they are a schism sect that split off from Methodists. If you look up who the founder of Methodists is, you'll find that they are a schism sect that was started by John Wesley, who schismed off of the Anglican Church. If you look up who started the Baptist Church, you'll see, depending on which line of Baptists, it might be the Anabaptists, it might be who split off from the Protestant Reformation, the early Reformers. They really split off mostly from Ulrich Zwingli. Or more modern Baptists have split off from Anabaptists and from Presbyterians, and even in some cases from Anglicans. But in each case, you find that all of these groups split off from some other group at some point, except the Orthodox Church. The Orthodox Church never split off from anyone. The Orthodox Church, if you look up right now, my bishop, Bishop Vasily, and then look up who his predecessor is, you can see who his predecessor is, and then you can look up who his predecessor is, and you can do that all the way going back to the Apostle Andrew himself. And I would encourage you to do that. Go ahead, look it up. You'll see for yourself that you can trace the succession all the way back to the apostles. We are the inheritors of that tradition. I would also point out to you that the church in Thessalonica, which received that epistle, received that command to hold fast to the tradition handed down to them, that church still exists. That church has been there from the time that that epistle was written all the way to our own day. And guess what? That church is Eastern Orthodox. That church believes that the deposit of faith which Paul is commanding them to hold to includes all of the Orthodox faith. So they're not Nazarenes, they're not Ebionites, they're not Baptists, they're not Presbyterians. They're Eastern Orthodox. Now, lastly, you mentioned the Roman Catholic Church, so I'll address that as well. The Roman Catholic Church can also trace their lineage back to Peter through Rome. But the problem with the Roman Catholic Church is a little bit different than the problem with Protestantism. So we've already eliminated all 40,000 and counting of the Protestant sects. But the Roman Catholic Church can't be eliminated quite that easily because they do in fact have apostolic succession. The problem with the Roman Catholic Church is that they have departed from tradition in doctrine. So they've added many things to the faith, and even the popes admit this. For example, Pope Benedict said that and I quote, that the problem with the Orthodox Church is that we didn't add the necessary developments like Rome, and we were quote unquote left behind. The greatest Roman Catholic apologist of all time, John Henry Newman, said of the Eastern Orthodox Church that we were left behind from necessary developments. The Roman Catholic Church itself admits that they were the ones who changed, not us. In other words, they have not held fast to the tradition handed down to us by the apostles, but instead have invented their own traditions. That's the definition of man-made traditions. They've added things like the papacy, the filioque, and many other things, certain things regarding Mary and many other things. So that's why the Roman Catholic tradition doesn't work. Only Eastern Orthodoxy can trace itself back to the apostles, both in practice, both in its institution, through the laying on of hands from the apostles all the way to our bishops today, and also in doctrine. You can read any church father from the time of the apostles all the way down to our own day, and you'll see that all of the fathers are teaching Holy Orthodoxy. So thank you so much for your comment. I'm glad that we could discuss that, and I look forward to seeing you in the Holy Orthodox Church, because I've answered the only objection that really matters, and that's this objection. So come and see for yourself. Come and see for yourself the benefit of abiding by tradition. Come and see for yourself the benefit of experiencing the grace of God in the divine liturgy. Come experience the liturgy. As always, I'm praying for you. God